show us some really damn fine Valorant earlier. This is, of course, with Velocity. We go for a very early push onto this B site.
No!
The suppression is perfect from DEATHMAKER, and with that, Deryeon will be swiftly dispatched while the remaining 4 members of Bleed look to flank all the way through B main. There's no messing around here. We are straight into the action, Grace.
Into the action indeed. DEATHMAKER ready and waiting in fish for this flank to come through. And that call out would have come through for a duo pick, but it's actually shut down there by Retla and Juicy themselves. And that's going to be a little bit of hesitance now just before they start to make their approach to the retake. And here we go. Neutral going out to make sure no one's going to be flanking from markets as the Fade utility starts to try and find some of these players. He's going to go for the cheeky pre-fire. I mean, that's a lovely pre-fire from Juicy. The trades across the board, and there we go. Can they defuse in time? Because that was a glorious retake there from the side of Bleed, and it's the stuff we want to see.
Duel after duel. And with the frenzies, like the one on Juicy, I mean, we saw the ferocity he was able to wield it too. Velocity, once again, going for some fairly swift control, this time over in A, in which Bleed had a fairly nice early warning system with the dagger, but there's no aggression off the back of this. Steadily, of course, the imports from Reckoning, the newest addition to Velocity, he has been molding to this team really nicely, and I think it's worth keeping an eye on him throughout this game. Sheriff in hand, crazyguy may be his first opponent to engage with.
Engagement needs to arrive at some point. But look at this. Once again, quiet before the storm. Both teams being a little bit patient, not willing to take that first engagement. Very impressed, actually, that Bleed aren't really going for the immediate hyper aggression in the points that they definitely could do. They don't want to risk, you know, leaving it a little bit undefended in certain areas if they do lose those entry picks. But for now, that's kind of jostled the attack a little bit. They know they have to be a little bit more slow. They know that these angles are going to be held, so it's about maintaining that util in pocket to allow them to go for that final collapse, and it looks like it is going to be a cheeky A collapse. Look at this, Jay ready and waiting. Can knock that door as soon as he wants, and well, very good. The util coming out, gets the pick onto Deadly. He's actually going to contest it quite heavily here. Gets a second. There's a third. There's a 4 from Retla as well, and Jay falling down as the only casualty now on the side of Here we go. Beautiful stuff.
Of course, Juicy, and I guess kind of Retla were the newer additions to Bleed. You need to remember they're from the same region, and they're going to have played with each other, against each other time and time and time again. And so even though they may be new to a team together, they're certainly not new to playing with each other. The same is going to apply to Deathly here in Velocity.
If you're pushing with a duo that can get a 4K between you, you're doing something right, you know. That's a really strong structure to have within that team. Speaking of strong structures, a lot of mid being given up kind of for free right now. Velocity making their way. Again, a little bit of quiet before the storm moments. No immediate overextension there from the defense, and looks like they're going to try and go for a little bit of push into Marcus, but the door has indeed been shut down. And Crazy on a little bit of a flank now. Will Crazy go crazy? No, they won't, because Deadly is ready and waiting. Beautiful shot there. No immediate trade-off either from the side of Bleed. And once again, a little bit of a standstill as rotations have to start coming through.
You're absolutely right. Something to highlight as well is on the match after this is the Val Classico. I guarantee you every single franchise player member is going to be watching this game and trying to figure out how Velocity are going to be drafting this match against Bleed. It's a very clean buy round thus far. It's all onto Retla, Bulldog in hand. 4 players to find. Damaged players are going to be DEATHMAKER and right away, so this is by all means doable. However, he needs these first kills, and he needs them quickly. And DEATHMAKER being as patient as ever, Retla knows that there is players in mid to worry about, but none of them want to fight him. And for Retla, he just backs off, saves the weapon. Why not? A Bulldog still has some impact, and it still has some damage to be sort of exported in the next round, so it gives you a little bit of teeth. While we do have a save here, though, Grace, I'm going to put you on the spot a bit. Do you have a prediction as to who's going to be winning this map?
It's a difficult one. It's a really difficult one because obviously Bleed have a slight advantage there starting on the defense, and I do think that it's nice that we're seeing both sides kind of bring the Fade and the KO together, but potentially Velocity might be able to pull this to a really nice, you know, if they go really well in their attack, especially given the util that they have, you know, they've got the Killjoy there as an example. Potentially Velocity could take it here.
I also think Velocity are going to take this. I can't I won't lie, it's going to be close. I think I doubt we're going to see sort of done in kind of sub 20 rounds. But I think that for the members of Bleed, this sort of agent comp slightly favors their attack. So they're sort of aiming for 4 or 5 rounds here, and the sort of work from there. Velocity, vice versa, favoring their defense, which means that both teams starting on their weaker side. Every round they can get is a bonus at this point. Aggression into main here from Bleed is very well calculated. DEATHMAKER falls, and with no trade, it's beautiful utility to land in sort of that doorway, which prevents the overextension from Velocity. The other members of Velocity, they're in mid, but because of the utility they've been throwing at mid consistently, it means that they haven't been able to garner too much control in exchange for what DEATHMAKER's life.
100%, and Deadly once again starting to apply this mid pressure, maybe trying to go and get that rotation to markets, as we see potentially the long rotate might come through from hellffR there, but again, not willing to kind of want to waste the time. But you gotta make your decision pretty soon, haven't you? You gotta make your decision quick, ready and waiting in the side of Fish for that rotation, but it's not just quite coming through yet. And this is the moment where I'm wondering what the shot call really is on the side of Velocity.
Yeah,
a bit of a bait there for that long rotation.
Nightfall could potentially be an overcommitment here. It's meant to all be a fake, yeah, and the fakes actually works beautifully. Deadly on the flank. Oh, he spots out Deryeon, but he can't get the kill. Punished instantly now. And you see the rotation of Velocity. They are all now swan diving to this B site. There is one lone fade to try and stop the crazyguy. There's only 15 seconds left. He only needs to kill one, and that may be enough. There's a spike down. Now timing's really going to be a problem here. Deryeon through the smoke. Misses his shot, but it's a headhunter to finish the job now. All on right to waste. Crazyguy delivers. Stand.
Like, just stood on that box and was like, yeah, free value, bro. Didn't come through. Got their ones. Beautiful aggression on both sides here around this Fish market. Yeah, brave indeed. The Prowler going through on both sides, so and that's going to start to apply the pressure. This is what I love actually about seeing Fade versus Fade, especially in these close quarter proximities, because that's where that util can really be used to its full potential.
Deryeon kind of risk going through a Prowler, a Seize, and a Flash, which landed on him, and he still pushed to get that opening. Doesn't get it, but he gets out in time, and well. That's what happens if you don't kill Deadly at the chance you provided. Instant trade there. I guess a vengeance from last round.
Yes, indeed. It's the Brave Song going to be shut down. No, it's not. hellffR taking on crazyguy before it can cause any more ruckus. And Jay really held back by the absolute util dump we're seeing on the side of Velocity right now. And there we go. Once again, Spike is being attempted, and this time it's going to go down.
Look at Right-Wait's position here. This now becomes a really crucial flank, considering how, for Bleed, every single member's coming through defender spawn. They're wary of the fact that mark is still open. But are they going to be the ones to close it? Jay gets the opening, and that may springboard the attack here. And actually, it's forced Right-Away to go through defender spawn here. Timing's everything here, Grace.
Ooh, good, gorgeous shot there. Deadly falling down, right falling it down, back onto JayH. Retla, one onto hellffR, and is going to ultimately be taken out there, but there's not going to be a chance for a defusal in time. A little bit of a pinch coming through there, but ultimately the guns are... I feel like there's maybe a bit of, like, with the aggression we're seeing on both sides, there's a little bit of fluster coming through on both sides too. I mean, for now, speaking of fluster, the absolute fluster coming through in this Fish market yet again. Loads of utility being dumped in such a small proximity between each other. Bladestorm coming out on the side of Bleed, but DEATHMAKER is there to shut down Jay as well, so that can't be a duo push through the mid. And you see this really long flank actually coming through from Juicy. This could be massive, but maybe Deadly is aware of it. Deadly certainly has their number. I do indeed think that is the case here, Kremer. A little bit of jiggle peeking going on, but no one really wanting to immediately take that fight for now. And the rotation through mid needs to come through. They're trying to go for the collapse, but they're just ready and waiting to see. Again, it's such a tight area of space to try and get through if you don't have the util ready in pocket and readily available to you. They do have a fair bit still on the Omen, but there we go. The attack of Killjoy is actually going to come out. The lockdown is indeed underway.
I'll find you.
And Bleed know this isn't a fake. There's not enough time left with this. And Velocity, they've really well crafted this. Crazyguy's going to reveal himself through the smoke, gets the opening onto hellffR. But regardless, Velocity are going to get to the site. The one drawback is both DEATHMAKER and Right to Waste are relatively low. They're definitely wounded going into this engagement. But the threat now of Deadly's flank is going to really be their linchpin of this attack. Juicy from Market. Remember, any utility threat to main right now isn't even going to hit Deadly. Out comes the null command, and that may kickstart the retake here. But through the Omen smoke, do they dare go into the crosshair of Deadly here?
It is a little bit of a risky biscuit. Gorgeous shot there. Deryeon and crazyguy one apiece. Poor Deryeon is traded out by DEATHMAKER. Can they get enough for what Deadly does? DEATHMAKER onto Juicy as well. crazyguy trades it back out. And that was, again, a good job there of just holding their angles. Even if they couldn't see, they were just waiting for moments where well, I was going to say where the heads pop up. And certainly the heads are popping up here. Deadly being the first casualty of this round.
Already a man down. Remember, their buy isn't great here, but as we've seen from Bleed, that buy, no worries. They were able to convert the last round. Let's see if the Sheriffs can have the same success here. Retla, good for the first on the cross, doubles down, and now we see that door get closed. Amaterasu is just not even able to get away. Retla, out comes the full buy. They have a Nightfall available on Amaterasu. Over for Deryeon, there is going to be that Tour de Force. I don't know if we'll be seeing the Tour de Force come out of this round, though, because Juicy going to be the one who ups the aggression.
100%. This is exactly what we like to see. The overextension into mid, waiting patiently like a python in the grass for one of these players to pop their head up. Will it transpire to anything, though? Only time can tell. There we go. They are aware where Juicy is now, so this should potentially allow them to go for the duo swing. There we go. Beautiful stuff. Deryeon and Retla. Juicy can DEATHMAKER and right, though, in the process, so again, a little bit scrappy there on both sides.
hellff's doing a great job as well, distracting them, pulling the attention away on A. He's been able to draw out two players now. Does he risk going through his own smoke? No, he doesn't. Again, hellff's. Bear in mind, hellff's he's one of the guiding lights of Velocity. He's one of the more experienced players, and you see that showing now. Not pushing, continuing to play your after plants, relying on your utility, and he's now just going to be in a position potentially to just trade with his teammates on this A site. You see the double kind of under setup now from the Omen and the Fade. All three members swing from heaven. The bait and switch is in prime position to convert now. crazyguy goes for the high ground on top of Generator, and it works beautifully. JayH's good for both. Deryeon chimes in. Bleeds. These retakes are magnanimous.
Especially on that A site, like, this is the thing, they've got so much comfortableness to actually just collapse back into that site. They have all the close. This is potentially the first game of the week to actually go probably into overtime, in my opinion.
It's got all the telltale signs, doesn't it?
100%. I mean, look at it.
Oh, missed flash from Jay. That is going to alert his position to Velocity. However, it's pretty common to be playing Market regardless. Bit of an off angle from Jay. Sees them. Charming deploys his second flash. Still holding on to the fragments, interestingly enough here. As instead, everyone goes quiet. Over in mid now, DEATHMAKER's the one who may be under pressure. He's got 3 players to worry about on short. Spots out the first, spots out the ponytail of Juicy. Unfortunately, Juicy will be able to respond. 4 on 5 now. Velocity, they have the positioning to hit this B site, but out comes the null command. Really good timing once again. Deryeon's in a make or break position here. Headhunter in hand. Ooh. Good for the first. Swings out. Can he double down? He doesn't need to. He's got Jay to help him. The support, the team play is just perfect. It's all on to Amaterasu. 1 versus 5.
A bit gross still, and I think that, like, at the same time, we've got the fact that we've got so many play days of these best of 3s. I think even if you kind of fall at the first hurdle, it's not too much of an issue anyway. This is just
Agreed.
the moments where we want to see these absolute, like, borderline stylistic plays come through, really. Like, you want to try something outside the box, but you still want to maintain a level of safety when it comes to util and map selection. And of course, Lockdown actually got destroyed there, so that's going to kind of shut down the aggressive collapse that Velocity were hoping for, and I think Retla is aware of that. Look at it, they're pushing up on them, ready to take these gunfights, but there we go, the suppression comes through. Smokes as well as both these jets. Deadly and Juicy are probably going to go a little bit spicy on each other. Retla falling down, those the opening casualty here. Jay is able to trade it back out before Amaterasu comes through with a pick of their own. Again, a little bit scrappy now on both sides, but they were able to execute even with the lockdown getting destroyed.
You're absolutely right. hellff's has got a great angle here, and he shuts down crazyguy. That's going to really sort of solidify Velocity's groundwork in this round here. Able to avoid the, well, almost able to avoid the alarm box's Juicy. Now in trouble, though, Deryeon. He's scopes in. He needs to pick and he needs it faster. A 5 versus 2 velocity. They're being real disciplined about this. Not swinging, not over peaking. They're making sure that Bleed aren't given an inch because they will take a mile. As Juicy demonstrates, good for 2. They'll have to be on for the ace to win this. But I tell you what, regardless of if he wins it, timing is going to be a bit of a curse here. He is making this bloody expensive for Bleed. And that's all he can hope for. Actually continuing the aggression as well. That's 4 for Juicy. That is just perfect for Bleed. And they're going to be very, very happy.
It's always also the fact that like how important the 0 point was. You know, yeah, the lockdown was destroyed, but it still allowed them that breathing room to kind of go and contest the players that were on site. I mean, speaking of contention, look at this. Retla already awaiting up in hand. About to get a little bit spicy with it. Goes for the teleport. So much util being sent towards them by the side of Velocity to try and hold them back. They are aware of this overextension. At this point, is this where you decide to try and go for a rotation? Yes, indeed it is. Amaterasu making the way through Fish now with health. Jay is aware that this collapse is going to come through, especially that pressure in mid. Can they win their one here? No, they can't. Deadly takes them out as Juicy and crazyguy also fall. And oh my goodness, it's a full stampede now as they collapse into that B site.
I feel like Velocity have sort of found their rhythm and their rhyme now, and for Bleed, they're completely caught off guard from that change of pace. They just got caught flat-footed, and now once again it's Deryeon and Retla into a 2 versus 5. The Hawk's gonna spot out Deryeon. Out comes Deadly. Remember, Deadly's a young kid. But when you
again, I'm wondering how that pressure is going to ultimately translate over to this defense. We already see the immediate aggressive push coming through from Bleed when it comes to this A long, but the orb's going to be collected, and that's going to stack them closer and closer towards that Blade Storm, which could be quite useful, actually, in this early part of their attack. Again, Fast and Furious is the name of the game. The Prowler going out to try and see if anyone's lurking around the immediate corner. If that is the case, you often have to go for that little bit of a pre-fire, and it can be pretty scrappy, but DEATHMAKER ready and waiting in market, just in case that collapse from Fish comes through, which it very might will do. Bit of rotation here up to Fish from the side of Bleed, so it looks like it is going to be a little bit of an attempt at a B take here. Oh!
That's clean. That's bloody clean. crazyguy, good for the first. There's no follow-up though, but for DEATHMAKER, the utility is buying quite a bit of time. Deadly in Defender spawn. Gonna swing out, does a bit of damage, takes a bit of damage. It's nothing too significant just yet. And for Bleed, they're gonna be able to get to this site. Velocity though, already in Defender spawn. They're now in a position to try and get back onto this site. And now, hellffR, point of contact. Out goes that smoke, out comes the players. They're going to be able to cancel that dagger. No suppression for the time being. Deryeon on the close angle. Beautiful shot to DEATHMAKER. Instantly gets away as well, but the trade comes in. hellffR onto crazyguy. For Velocity, I don't think they've realized just yet that every single member of Bleed is on this site. A bit of damage through the box there. Right away is good for 1. He's instantly traded, as is hellffR.
And they can be a little bit of a menace, as we've already seen, and I'm wondering how much that can be utilized, especially when it comes to that post plant as well, or even gaining mid control as we get closer and closer through these rounds. The patience here is incredible. Jay ready and waiting with that util. I think there's going to be an immediate stampede into this A site, and we only really have DEATHMAKER ready and waiting to hold it back here. We could have a quick rotation from hellffR, but again, DEATHMAKER is the one that really needs to win this gunfight out. But as I say, the rotation is going to come through. They decided to not go for it, which is interesting.
Right, and I think for Bleed, bearing in mind that they know their opponents are on an eco, they know that Velocity are going to be aggressing somewhere, so instead they're just going to try and bait out that aforementioned aggression. Velocity aren't biting though, they're more experienced than that. Right, so Ace is going to be the early warning system on B, but as a lone killjoy with nothing but a classic, I doubt they're going to be able to get too much damage done, but maybe they'll be able to buy enough time and delay this plant for just a moment's hesitation.
And Deryeon ready and waiting with the 2K. Deadly and right to Ace falling down. That's a good start to it. And before I can even get my words out, look how much of this damage.
Get the round out of the way. And you also preserve a little bit of momentum when the rounds you need to get rid of go quickly. They now move to the Randall rounds. This is where I want to see them sort of hold a little bit, be a little bit more passive. They've gone for some fairly methodical map control. But little do they know, they're staring down the entirety of the Bleed offensive as they get ready to cascade and waterfall their way onto this A site. The delay utility may have landed in time, and that may have brought space that Velocity so desperately needed. Bleed, they hightail it out of there. They're not exactly being quiet about it either as they bombard their way back around spawn and into what may be the awaiting arms of Amaterasu. Once again, Amaterasu doesn't need to kill them. He just needs to buy time. Because Velocity, they're like a marauding group of juvenile T-Rexes. You can just make them think that actually you don't need to take the fight, then you're safe for the time being.
100%. I mean, already no immediate casualties, so that's certainly a better sign here for the side of Velocity. You could be able to contest this in a really nice way, and I think they are fully aware that the execute is happening on that B side. But at this point, Amaterasu, DEATHMAKER, and right to A shutting down significant members of the side of Bleed. Juicy with the trade back, though. Not willing to give up this attempt just yet, as we see a really long extension here from crazyguy. Can they get this pick? No, they can't. Beautiful stuff there.
Really strong round, and now for crazyguy. He's left in a clutch scenario. Only 13 seconds left. Velocity are acutely aware that it's going to be a plant on A. What I quite like is they were being a little bit reserved with that push because they were worried about crazyguy actually doubling back and going for the eliminations. Remember, crazyguy doesn't have HP. Against Velocity, they have full HP. But with that Prowler, out goes all of the info gather available for Velocity. They need to take a fight with a shoulder peek. LF, he will happily oblige crazyguy, and he'll be able to deliver Velocity that 6th round. Really, really strong stuff from them. And I'm quite liking how they're now just dropping the utility fairly early. It's a sort of narrow window where you're going to be able to go with such an aggressive attack.
Here we go. Util on both sides. Deadly, are you going to try and contest this? The duo swing might come through and shut you down, but actually, there we go. Can you get the one? There's one for Amaterasu at least. Juicy taking down Deadly before they can cause any ruckus. As expected, again, very difficult to contest that kind of angle if you're in a 1vx. That's exactly what Bleed allowed them to do. They fell into that trap perfectly, and now they do indeed have a little bit of pressure being applied. You can start to make their way up mid, and maybe again we'll see that little push through fish by crazyguy, and that could create a nice pinch. For now, it looks like a bit of a util bait. And just really getting the feelers out, working out what they want to do. It is a 4 versus 4, but they do have 50 seconds, so a decision needs to come through relatively swiftly.
DEATHMAKER on the shoulder peek now. As is more set up for info here rather than an initial stop of an attack. Out comes the null command. This is just going to invigor Bleed to bombard their way onto this site here. DEATHMAKER, does he risk going through this smoke? He's umming and ahhing about it. He does just that. He's good for one. Oh, he doubles down! Crazyguy! That's a hell of a push now. And Amaterasu now needs to respond with an even stronger push. Crazyguy, he's going all the way towards the spawn. Right away, he's going to be the point of contact. Crazyguy's popping off. Crazyguy's unstoppable! He's a madman! Chamber sort of go on his own foray. Gets cut off. Shoulders there. It's a difficult position to be in, and the issue for the Killjoy, in my opinion, is that you have to it's very static utility. Yes, one part of the map is going to be relatively well guarded, but the second you have to rotate, all of that's deactivated, and it's rendered useless. And it's not utility you can sort of pick up and place elsewhere. Yes, sometimes the turret, but that's it, really. So I much prefer the chamber. For the time being, though, Bleed going up close and personal to this smoke, and this could be potentially punished by Velocity, who are going to be waiting for them on the other side.
Waiting on the other side. I mean, crazyguy's going to get sent to the other side, but Juicy is there with the trade, taking them down in a 2k. That wall can be plonked down, and that's going to allow all the breathing space in the world to them. Like, plonked down. Juicy, beautiful pick there onto right to ace, and my, Amaterasu left themselves in a 1 versus 4. Again, the ideal way to play these 1vx's is to bait out the bait out those 1 versus 1s, but if you can't do that, that is where things get very, very difficult. Again, they're going to have these angles held against you. What beauty do you have a pocket? I mean, there we go. Talk of angles.
Down available on the Killjoy and the Nightfall available on FaZe. This is alongside the Operator out on Deadly, who's instantly hit with the Paranoia and the Nightfall. There's that change of pace from Lee, and it works beautifully. Counter Nightfall deployed. It is going to at least garner a bit of control, but it's not going to delay a push because no push was going. No push was coming their way. Everyone else was already heading towards this ace site, where the Omen is going to be tested in just a moment. Carry on thoughts. There's a trade from the DEATHMAKER. Everyone's collapsing around the map. Velocity, they seem to have put their foot down. There's no more pushing for you, Bleed. And it's all on Retla. Blink and you miss it.
You missed it indeed, but there we go. Beautiful pixel pick there, but right to ace is ready.
The Omen just shuts them down. Don't get me wrong. Hell of a round from them, and a much needed round at that. Let's see if they can do it again. Deadly, close to mid. Leaves the barrel of these guns, but can't punish the first player. Ready to dash out of position now. But it's Juicy and Retless are both chime in. 2 quick kills now, and Bleed are looking to restore order to the Force.
Restoring order to the Force indeed. DEATHMAKER having their own little Obi-Wan moment there. Jay falling down for versus 3 for this collapse to try and contest against. There we go, the beautiful trades coming through by the Omen. Steron as well with a pick there onto right to ace, and that's so much breathing room now because a 3 versus 1 post, but I mean, it's still doable on both sides. DEATHMAKER, well, as I say that, the smoke unfortunately means you